Demarcus Lacy TV.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Commentary on Demarcus Lacy TV. I have a special guest, my OG, the GOAT of this generation, that I would say to a lot of young leaders and preachers and itinerant ministers and businessmen, none other than Elder Mark Moore Jr. Man, how you doing today, man?
I am here on Demarcus Lacy TV, so I made it, man. I'm gonna call my mama.
Oh man,
mom,
don't do
that. I made it. I made it to DLTV, man. Good to be here with you,
man. I really appreciate it, man. I know you got a very busy schedule, man. We're not gonna hold you long, but I really do appreciate you taking the time out, man, to come on my show just to ask you some questions and have conversation. I know this is something that you're doing as well. I haven't seen a lot of interviews of you. I know you are asking a lot of other people questions and things like that, but we kind of want to get to know who Mark Moore is, if that's okay.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'm honored.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so you're originally from Indianapolis, Indiana, right?
Yes, sir. Originally, I was born right there in Indianapolis, Marion County, Indiana. My father, to go back 33 years, my dad was to his dad what I am to my dad. And so my grandfather pastored a historic church there in Indianapolis, and my father and mother served there faithfully. And you're right in that I'm originally from Indianapolis, but I don't really have any Indianapolis memories growing up like that, because my grandfather, I was born in January of 88.
Okay.
My grandfather went to heaven in December of 88. And so shortly after that, you know how death can change families and ministries. And shortly after that, we ended up moving. So I didn't grow up in Indianapolis. I want to make that clear, because I don't want no Indianapolis people to see this and be like, we don't remember him. I was there as a baby. And then
you don't want to see him come after you in the comments.
But that is the hometown.
Wow, okay. And you said, I know you mentioned it a lot, that you're a fifth generation preacher?
Yes, sir. Fifth generation, man.
Can you break that down of, the timeline of who and,
Man, that's a great question. And really, the best thing to do is just to count up. So I think part of what makes my sister and my brother and I so unique, if I can say it that way, is the fact that not only do we have it on, our mom's side or our dad's side, but we've got ministry on both sides of our family. So I'm fifth generation. Above me, you have my mother and my father, both born and raised in church. But above them, you have my grandparents on both sides. My grandfather on my mom's side and my grandfather on my dad's side were both bishops in the Lord's church. They both founded ministries and led for decades and covered countless preachers and leaders around the country. So that's another tier up. And then above that, my grandfather's father was a pastor and a preacher. And that's on my dad's side, and his father and mother, both of their parents were pastors, one in Ohio, one in Indiana. And then on my mom's side, that next tier up, my grandmother's father was a pastor. And so, and then there was another one above that. So if you go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you land on me and my brother and my sister, 5 generations of ministry, man, on both sides. So it's some people grow up, Demarcus, and they want to be athletes because that's who their heroes were. They want to be a fireman, they want to be, a musician or NBA player or whatever. Well, for me, my heroes growing up were preachers, pastors, the bishops, so that's where I come from. And I think that it would be foolish of me not to directly draw a link, man, between so many of the things that I'm able to do now with the favor of God and the cradle from which I come, man. So I'm grateful for it. I'm honored by it, and that's where I come from, man.
And so you're a bona fide PK.
Doc, I'm dyed in the wool. You can't, I'm not new to this. I got PK wisdom that I don't even know how I have. It was in my DNA. So yeah, I'm from this, man.
And everybody know, because you voice it a lot. You have, I believe your father is it Bishop B.T. Moore, or I don't want to get that wrong. Or
that was my grandfather, my dad's father.
Okay, and then you have Bishop Boone
That's my mom's
that just recently passed.
Yep.
But who are those other ones that we don't hear about them a lot? And what church were they in?
Man, you know what? Now you got to remember, my mother was the baby of her family. Okay, my father was the baby boy of his family. So they started later. So my grandfather, my mother's father, who just went to heaven most recently in 2018, both of my mother's parents closed their eyes in 2018, and they were 98 and 94 respectively. Grandmother on my dad's side just closed her eyes last year at 94 years old. So because my parents were the babies, so to speak, and because both of my grandparents started kind of late, I got here and much of the history, was going on. So I can't really intelligently speak too much about some of those previous generations, because we're talking about people now that were born in the 1800s, because my grandparents were so old. So the generation before them, I do know that my father's grandfather was Bishop Curtis Lee, who pastored and really led the Ohio District Council in an organization called the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World. He led that fellowship of churches for decades, I believe. My father's grandfather on his dad's side, Reverend Curtis Moore, Pastor Curtis Moore, was a pioneer pastor. They would send him to different cities to handle tough churches, so to speak, and he would move around, again, from the 1800s. My grandfather my mother's grandfather, District Elder Rush Lockhart from Oxford, Mississippi, actually. That's where that side of the family comes from. And he pastored a church there in Oxford for years and years and years. And if you start going too much further than that, I get a little foggy with these names, because these are people I've only seen in black and white pictures. So I know they're there. But don't ask me, don't grill me too much on the history, because I get a little foggy. I didn't know them. But they were there, man.
Man, that's crazy. Yeah. That's amazing, man. I mean, you just mentioned as far as the church that you guys were involved in. Here in the South, my family is kind of accustomed to, I was born and raised, I don't know if you know this organization, the AOH Church, Apostolic Overcoming Holiness. Okay,
Let me drop this on you.
Okay.
The presiding bishop right now of AOH is Bishop Lawrence Williams. Am I right?
That's right.
Bishop Lawrence Williams is in Seattle, Washington. Am I right?
Right.
My father was born in Seattle, Washington, because my grandfather that we just talked about, Bishop B.T. Moore, founded a church, Bethel, in Seattle, Washington. Do you know who my grandfather's minister of music was and choir director for a minute? I'll help you.
Come on.
Bishop Lawrence Williams. Bishop Lawrence Williams used to babysit my father and my uncle.
Wow.
He was
out of here.
Bishop Williams used to live for a season. He was a son of my grandparents. Bishop B.T. Moore, Dr. Willa Moore, they were a second set of parents for him and his lovely wife. We call her auntie. I don't want to give out names.
Oh my
and whatnot.
goodness.
But that's family. He babysat my father and my uncles and was over the music ministry.
Get out of here.
That's some history for you, huh?
That's some history. Now listen, I need everybody to share right now. We're having a great conversation with Elder Mark Moore Jr. AOH family.
What page are we on? The Demarcus Lacy Ministries, right? Okay,
yes, sir. Demarcus Lacy Ministries.
I got to get it on this too.
Yes, sir. We're on Facebook on Demarcus Lacy Ministries and YouTube, Demarcus Lacy TV. Everybody, I would like for you to please like and share right now, because I believe this conversation is going to get great as we go on. All my AOH family, Bishop Cannon, Bishop Mitchell,
it's hilarious.
Bishop Philip Wright, You just left here in Biloxi, Mississippi at the Young Dreamers Conference. And some of the ministers and ministries that go to the Anointed Temple AOH down here, which is Bishop Jonathan Tate, they had some history of your aunt that used to travel, and come down here at times. So, man, that's crazy.
So no, but wait, make sure you understand. The Bishop Lawrence Williams connection is on my dad's side, right?
Okay.
Pastor Arizona Jenkins, that's my mom's auntie, obviously on my mother's side. So, bro, we called in our family Aunt Zone. That's I thought her name was Aunt Zone until I'm embarrassed to say how old I was. But Pastor Arizona Jenkins used to come, and man, she was the premier female preacher back in the 60s and 70s, man. Just a bad girl, man. And so that was mom's side. Bishop Lawrence Williams is dad's side. So we're connected all kind of ways, man.
Man, that's cool, man. That is cool. That's some good history. Well, man, looky here. You growing up in the PAW church, what are some times that you can remember that really stuck out to you growing up in those times as being like a young kid growing up?
Man, growing up in the Apostolic Church, man, is something that I would not trade for anything. I think, to be very honest with you, that it's unfortunate that so many church kids, PKs especially, that come from what we come from, they've got this kind of jaded, angry, the church robbed me, the church stole my childhood, They have these kinds of stories, and I do not want to sound as if I'm minimizing their experience, because a lot of people have very legitimate reasons as to why they feel the way they feel. But what I am saying is that my experience was not the same. And I think that it would be a mistake to lump all church kids that come from that, Pentecostal holiness background in the same category of being angry, bitter, broken. For me, man, growing up in a sanctified home in the sanctified church, that was that was the best thing ever. Our friends were at church. Our fun was at church. And I don't say that in a negative way, but I remember going to school and, and talking to my classmates. I'm talking about as a little kid. And, we in revival that week. And we got Bishop so-and-so's in town preaching, Elder so-and-so's around. And I'm just happy. I'm asking them, what'd you do this week? What you got going on? And they talking about regular, I got football practice, and then I got music lessons. I'm like, when do you go to church? We go on Easter. First of all, it's Resurrection Sunday. Second of all,
come on.
Y'all don't go through the week. Like, I feel so sorry for you. So my experience, man, was one of just great joy, and I'm forever grateful for the lessons and the principles and the just the imprint, man, that it's made. And not to be negative at all, but I think that sometimes people will bash or throw off on some of our more conservative movements and some of our more conservative models and approaches. But if you look at where the church, and specifically our generation, is now, we have moved, bro, so far to the left, to a point where everything goes, anything is allowed, nothing is wrong. That if it wasn't for that solid anchor of just conservative holiness, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't know where we would be and what we would be engaged in and things of that nature. So I think that while, as young men, we don't agree with everything necessarily, or the way everything was done or the way everything was presented, we grow and we understand, they meant well. This came from a pure place, but maybe it wasn't the Bible that said it was a sin if we were red. Maybe we got that part of it. I understand we want to be different, but I don't think we're going to hell if we wear red.
Exactly.
They meant
I see
well.
what you're saying.
Their heart was in the right place. We wanted to please God, separation from the world.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we shouldn't have necessarily told people they were going to hell if they played marbles, because the Bible said marble not. Maybe we just didn't understand that. You know what I mean?
That's just somebody can't. They just didn't read right.
Somebody can't read.
Somebody can't read.
Bishop meant well, but Bishop can't read.
Come on.
So I think that being able to look at those experiences and those approaches for what they were,
Yes, sir.
genuine, in most cases, a genuine attempt to lead God's people and to please God. While we didn't always get it right, it came from a pure place, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the principles that were instilled, because those principles are going to that's what's going to keep us anchored, man.
And I would agree, and I appreciate your input on that, because the experiences that we were brought up on, and the principles that we were taught, the phrase that a lot of people say, to chew the meat and spit out the bones. There are some great things that we have learned growing up in the quote unquote sanctified church or holiness church. And some of us are still involved in some of those ministries to today. Right. And we have learned great principles and had awesome experiences. And I would say today, it ain't no church like the sanctified church.
Right.
I can remember leaving out of a meeting one day. I had the privilege of experiencing my mother being filled with the Holy Ghost coming out of a revival meeting in Mobile, Alabama. And it's just so many great memories and things that, we have learned throughout the time. Just fast forwarding a little bit, and just want to respect your time. I know you growing up around all these great men and seeing all these, pioneers in the faith, and you're learning under their tutelage and everything. Who are some people that you really looked up to at that time? And as a kid, sometimes you'll say it as a kid, I want to be like that when I grow up. Who are some people that you looked up to growing up at that time?
Man, the first, without hesitation or delay, you got to go with my dad. Number one.
Sure, that's right.
That we almost that
shout
we
out
don't
to
even
Bishop
count.
Moore.
Yes,
shout out to Bishop
don't
Moore.
even count. Definitely want it to be act, sound, walk, preach, teach, lead. Definitely wanted to be him. 2.0. In large part because by virtue of being in the house, I had the privilege of seeing not just church him, but home him.
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm forever grateful that one of the best gifts God gave me and my siblings was the fact that the mom and dad we saw at church was the same mom and dad we saw at home.
That's good.
I think, not to segue here or shift us backwards, but I think that a lot of the hatred and the bitterness and the anger that some of us have at church and things of ministry is in part because we didn't see it modeled in a genuine sense at home.
I can understand it.
And so a lot of
sir.
us, a lot of our generation and even the previous generation, I think, wrestled with bitterness and I'm not going to do this because they saw one thing from mom and dad or uncle and auntie, whatever, at church, and they were different at home. Because of the favor of God, I was blessed to grow up where home and church matched. And so
Yes,
that
sir.
really just made me, really want to model what I saw through my dad. And so starting with that family cradle, dad and then grandfathers, I was able to have my mother's father in my life active and strong until I was 30 years old. And so those are lessons and input that I will carry for the rest of my life. My father's father, again, I had him for 11 months, but the legacy and the stories and the history that I was able to glean from him through my grandmother,
Yes, sir.
That I'll carry forever. But outside of the family piece, right, because of that, holiness background, man, there were so many people that were friends of our family because of the generations. There were so many people that were close to us that I had a chance to look at and admire, up close and say, I'm gonna do that. For example, one comes to mind. My mother's from Detroit. Okay, my grandfather on her side, again, pastored in Detroit. And so he was friends with pastors and preachers in Detroit. So by virtue of that, we grew up with the Ellis family. I grew up rather in the shadow of the relationship between my family and the Ellis family. And
Oh,
so
wow.
as a preacher's kid, you know, every PK, now you know I'm telling the truth, we can make a church out of anything. You know,
Come
let me
on.
find an empty McDonald's
Yes, sir.
and see if I don't put a sanctuary and a family life center and a youth church where to play with it. Let me
Come on.
find an old Blockbuster or a
Yes, sir.
CVS that went out of business, and don't let us mess around and be on the right side of town and see an empty warehouse. Doc, we got a mega church now. You know,
Come on.
so
We
as
already got it in
church
our
kids,
mind.
there you go. So we can make a church out of everything. And so as a little kid, I remember in 2000, I think it was 2001, 2002, Greater Grace Temple in Detroit, they opened up their new sanctuary, their new church campus, which certainly at the time and still today was cutting edge, state of the art, 4,000 seats, just. And I remember going with my mother and my grandparents to the grand opening. And I remember as a 10-year-old kid, 10, 12 years old, saying, one day, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna build one
Okay.
of these. And so,
Wow.
by virtue of that, Bishop Charles Ellis becomes a notable figure in my mind because I'm gonna build a big church, right? You know, growing up, my dad's friends became
Let,
my heroes.
I don't
Sir,
mean to cut you off. Let me ask you this.
please.
Talking about Bishop Charles Ellis, is he the first one that started that? I don't know if it came out of PAW when you preaching, everybody's hooping. He does this with the mic or whatever. Did he start that, or was it Bishop
No,
Noel Jones?
no, he did not.
Okay,
Neither one of them started that. Actually,
really?
that you got to go back. You got to go back. You got to go back, and you got to talk about people like the late Bishop R.W. McMurray out of Los Angeles, who pastored the church before Bishop Noel
Okay,
Jones got there. Before it was a City of Refuge, it was Greater Bethany Community Church. Bishop
okay.
McMurray used to shake the mic. You got to go up to New York. Bishop Apostle, still going strong. Huey Rogers out of Bible Way. He
Okay.
was a mic shaker. So, and there are others older than me that would maybe say, well, actually, Bishop Rogers got it from this one, and Bishop Murray got it from this one. I don't know, but I do know that that did not start in the '90s, man. With Bishop Ellis, that goes back
Wow.
decades, man.
So
With some of the
he
OGs.
got it from something. I guess he kind of popularized it. I'm getting tongue twisted on words, but he probably made it popular. I guess how he did it. That's amazing. But
Yeah.
I was listening at you saying something. I know you got to get ready to go. When you went to the church and you saw the fine arts and the innovation and everything that was going on around in that church, do you think that kind of helped you kind of shape your mind of coming up into young leaders and the things that you're doing now? Do you think that was kind of like the spark in your mind to say, hey, I'm going to make this kind of translate to young people, or make it to where the people of my generation can be involved in stuff like this?
Great question. I'm gonna say no and look at it from a macro view, because remember, because of the 5 generations, I've been in this literally all of my life. This is what I know.
Right.
This is how I
Right.
relate. This is how I engage. And because my parents were not just preachers' kids that just sat on the pews, and my dad's a pastor, my mother's no, they were both extremely involved. And essentially, my father was his father's right hand until he died. And then my father submitted to Bishop James Nelson, who is still his pastor today. He's had 2 pastors.
Okay. Oh,
And
wow.
he serves as Bishop Nelson's right now, one of his right hands. My mother
Okay.
was her father's right hand until the day he closed his eyes. And so because of their proximity and their engagement and their involvement, remember, I'm a baby now, sitting
Yes,
in
sir.
board meetings, essentially, sitting in high level leadership conversations about planning conventions and organizing meetings and scheduling all these things and booking hotel. I'm a little boy. in these, I'm on the floor, maybe playing with my car or sitting in the chair, writing in my coloring book, but I'm still absorbing all of this. And so when you fast forward, after all of these years of ministry and of being around it, I started YLC. Well, you remember we started really YLR, Young Leaders Retreat.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, you started Young Leaders Retreat in 2012, is that right?
2012, yeah. Young Leaders Retreat was in 2012.
With 50 people.
50 people, man. 50 people. And so in 2012, well, that's 10 years ago. Wow.
You're OG.
Wow. I'm a veteran now. I'm getting out of here. So I was 22, 23 years old when we did this first thing. And so I'd been in this environment, though, all of my life. My mom is a meeting planner. That's by trade. She's a meeting planner. So I know verbiage and lingo about attrition rates and room charges and amenities and facility charge. I know all of this stuff, and I don't even know how I know it. So when I got started doing my events, it's unfair to other visionaries that are listening and a little bit jaded. How come he got to do what? Why does God love him more? No. I just happened to come from the right place at the right time. And so I had knowledge that I had absorbed through the years that I didn't even know I had, man. So I think that much of the success of the conference and the retreat and all of that is just the product of being around that environment and being able to see
that's a great point.
Models.
That's a great point. And what I can learn from that, well, everybody that's watching, I think we can learn from that. Even though if you don't have a background of that, get around somebody, that's in that space, even though your family was involved in it, get around somebody that's doing event planning, maybe in an industry that may not consist of church, to probably where you can learn certain things, learn certain lingos, learn, how to sign business, because the things that I see you do with young leaders, and just to pause and say, I was a part of the first Young Leaders Conference.
Yes, you were.
The first 300. And it was just amazing. And so just seeing all and being around it, being around that atmosphere, it kind of gives vision of things that you want to do personally. Let me ask you this, as we're about to get ready to conclude. Got 10 minutes. I want to make sure I ask some good questions. It's, about leading up into young leaders and all this. You had something going called Preach Hard Alliance. Do you remember that?
Barely. Yeah, man. You did your research, man. Your research team is amazing.
I did a little bit, but I remember at that time you was doing Preach Hard crusades and things of that nature. And I'm just seeing the visionary in you, man, and just, every year after year, just innovating and just making it bigger, making it better. Let me ask you this. What was your budget with those 50 people at that first leaders? You don't mind sharing?
No, I don't mind at all. My budget at the first one was $2,470. And I remember, I just had a chill go down my spine because I remember the fear and the anxiety. How in the world am I going to get $2,470? I will never forget just the head scratching and this prayer and supplication and fasting. God, make a way, be a Jehovah Jireh. And it's funny now because you fast forward just a little further, and we're not talking about $2,400. We're talking about seven figures. You know what I mean?
Right.
We would spend, man, we'd spend several times that $2,400 on ink pens and notebooks. We'd spend more than $2,400 on a flight, for one of these speakers and things. So just the growth and the expansion, man, and just being made aware of how God can elevate and change things quickly, man.
What do you think changed? I don't mean to cut you off. What do you think changed? What do you think with you, with the 50 to the 5,000? What did you have to change? What is something that you had to, do differently and kind of grow and learn from that 50 to where you previously had 5,000 at your conference? What did you have to do?
Man, you're asking really good questions, man. And I hope this doesn't come off wrong. But when I think of what I had to do, and I hope this makes sense, man, but it's the best answer because it's the truth. I had to stay scared. All right.
Okay. Break it down.
I had to stay scared. What I mean by that is this. I talked to you about the fear of that $2,400 budget in the first year and the fear of, will anybody come? I remember there are pictures of me at the DoubleTree in the service closet, the service hallway outside of the room that would lead up to the little meeting room. There are pictures of me in there. I'm gonna call it what I was basically hiding because I was nervous on if anybody was gonna show. And so I'm back there peeking through cracking the door, peeking through, texting people, hey, is anybody in here? Is anybody in here? But the crazy thing is, at that last conference we just talked about with the 5,000, I was in the back, in the green room, coming out, peeking through the thing, trying to see is anybody lined up? Is anybody?
Brother, I can imagine.
The fear didn't go away. And for me, because I know me, the reason I say I had to stay scared is because I think a lot of visionaries, the worst thing that can happen is they get comfortable. They get sure of their skills. Oh man, I know I can do this. No. They get cocky. They get arrogant. Man, I got this. Good. I know how to do it. I've been doing this. I double every year. Okay. For me though, I know I got to stay in a position of they don't have to come back. They don't have to like it just because you put a flyer up. They don't have to register. Right. They don't have to come ready. These speakers don't have to say yes. And so everything that goes right, you need to be thanking God because it didn't have to go that way. And that what I would call healthy fear, kind of kept me in a position of saying, no, I got to stay focused. I can't get lost on the fact that I'm looking at all the video clips from last year. Ooh, we killed it. Oh, look at the stage. We got people all in the air. People lined up hours before we open the doors to get in. Yeah, all that's great. You let that fuel you for a minute, but then you got to remember, hey, they don't have to come back next year. What are you going to do, Mr. Visionary, to give them something to come back to? You can't do the same tired program. What sessions are you going to put out there? You got a nice little skeleton now, you get a little framework, but what are you going to do to put some meat on those bones that make people say, I got to get to that thing? So for me, man, what changed in me was just the mindset of I can't allow the success of last event to cripple me for the next event. But I'm telling you, man, so many of us mess up because we get drunk on the success of our last victory.
That's
then
good.
We fail to pursue the next one. We don't prepare the same way.
That's good.
We don't adjust the same way. And so for me, man, I had to stay scared. And as a result of that, I think that maybe a more spiritual way to put it is I had to stay humble and submitted to God, had to keep trusting, But
I was going to mention that because when being scared, you're not prideful. You're humble. You look to hear more. You can get wisdom. Somebody can tell you something. You can learn what you made a mistake in. You can learn, I shouldn't have said it like that, or I shouldn't have gone about it that way. So by being scared, man, I've been enjoying this, and man, prayerfully, man, I can get you back on, man, just to kind of go into details about a lot of other things. But we got a few minutes before we get ready to wrap up.
Let's give it a few more minutes, man.
Okay. Well, during the conference, right, you going from Young Leaders Retreat, and you decided to do Young Leaders Conference. Right. What really made you make that decision? Like, what was the need? What was the need to do it? Now, I know you talk about a lot of times, you got something what you got out there, a course that you've done, something that I've taken, plug, the Digital Ministry Blueprint or the Conference in the Click. You're teaching, you're, letting us know how we can do what you've done. You didn't do this by just saying, well, this person is doing this, or I seen this conference do it like this? What made you want to do the Young Leaders Conference?
Man, I love that question. Here's the truth of it. We have to continue the evolution of our conversation, right? So
Yes, sir.
because of the 5 generations and being in church and seeing and being firsthand, all of that, because of that, I was able to see so many conferences, all the conventions, all the councils, all the convocations, all the crusades, all the revivals, all the back to school jams, all the youth explosions, right? I saw it all, and it became clear, wait a minute, it's a lot of folk doing the same thing.
The same thing.
Over and over and over again. Like that, wait a minute, that's the same conference with a different flyer. You got some of the same people on it, same session titles and topics, and y'all covering the same material, but the numbers are declining. People are not coming like they used to. What if we did it better, right? And so Young Leaders started, man, out of recognizing a need to foster initially intergenerational dialogue and relationship in a way that hadn't been done before. Malachi, we hear Malachi, what do we immediately think? Well, a man robbed God, yet you have robbed me. How? In tithe.
Yeah.
It's saying that, but it's other stuff in there. And
that's right.
The thing about Malachi that really stands out to me is the portion of the scripture where he says, in the last days, I will send my prophet, and he will turn the hearts of the fathers to the sons, the hearts of the sons to the fathers, lest I smite the earth with a curse. And
yes, sir.
I said, man, you know what? Because I'm generations in, because I come from a healthy ministry background, because I'm unashamedly a son, and this was in 2012, I'm still saying the same thing. But, I wasn't no big ministry in 2012 for me. So I'm just the son, what would happen if I introduced my generation to this whole idea of having conversation with the older men and women? Because we need both. The young men are strong. We're smart. We have technology. We have innovation. But the old men know the way. What would happen if we got them in one room, not to fight and not to just sit there and be rebuked, but to grow from each other? I think that would be God. And so good. God breathed on that vision, and 12 retreat, 13 retreat, 2014 retreat. Each one has grown 50, 100, 200. So I'm looking back to the whole, my mother being a meeting planner. I don't like the word conference just being thrown around, because, man, and even now, man, it's so many, everybody got a conference. Tell me about your conference. Well, it's going to be one evening service, and then that's it. That's not a conference. That's a service. That ain't a conference. That's a church service. No classes, no tracks, no nothing, no people. This ain't, y'all just want to come have church. That's fine, but that's not a conference.
Just call it a revival or crusade.
It's a revival. It's a crusade. Exactly. So by the time we get to 2014 and we see 200 people come, and we've been up until this point in one room, and you can remember, bro, you've been around, you've been family for years. Initially, there was no music, there was no worship service, there was no praise team, it was straight educational. But you know how we do. The Holy Ghost is falling in the room, folks on the floor crying, speaking in tongues, no music. So eventually we added a service, and then we were like, man, this is something special. And so at the end of 2014's conference, I said, hey, I think we have enough momentum. At the end of that retreat, I think we have enough momentum to make this a real conference. Let's break out into tracks. Let's break out into sessions. Let's bring in multiple things at a time, and let's see if we can make it work. And it was off to the races from there, man.
Wow. That's amazing, man, because I can remember, man, being at that first conference. It was just, not only did we get education, but, man, it was so spirit-filled. I can remember, I think I got some of the pictures still in my phone.
Wow.
Man, people crying, people hugging, and it was just amazing, man. And just seeing all of that, and you just growing from one level to the next, and just really just putting your all into it. I know you had some kind of criticism, some kind of, slack from, because when you're doing something new, there's always going to be some talk around it. What kind of controversy or criticism did you get around that just starting it?
Man, you trying to send me to my angry place before we go. I'll never forget, man. I'm gonna go all the way back because here's a lesson I think we need to remember: the more successful you become, the quieter your critics get. Okay, think about what I said. The more successful you become, the harder it becomes for you to hear them, because you got so much other stuff going on.
Wow.
And at a certain point, especially I'm talking more so about ministry, if you're doing something for God, there's a level you get to where you get harder to hate. Okay. Because even if they don't like you, there's a level where it's like, you know what, I can't stand him. He get on my nerves. But he is doing it. Like, I don't like him, but I am going to tune in and watch because I got to see, what did he do this time? I can't, at a certain point, you almost become the one they love to hate. And if we go biblical for a second, Bible talks about the fact there's a point you can get to where even your enemies have to call you blessed.
Will be at peace with you. That's
even
right.
your enemies, yes, sir, will be at peace with you. Man, I don't like you, but bro, this
doing something right.
TV thing is dope. Like, you got artwork behind you with saxophones and guitars and pianos, and you got a red lamp. I don't have a red lamp.
You are funny.
I want a red lamp, man. I don't even like you, Demarcus, but this setup is nice, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. So for me, man, most of my vocal criticism that I was able to hear, at least, that keep in mind that I was able to hear, certainly doesn't mean it went away. It just had to get a little more quieter, because at a certain point, you look like a hater, right? At a certain point, you look like a hater if you're gonna talk about ABC 1, 2, 3. But initially, we had no track record, we had no success under our belt, so it was easy to hate. I'll never forget, registration at the first one was $50. Not $150, not $350, not $1,050. It was $50, right? Because remember, bro, I got to get some kind of mechanism in place to get $2,470. There was a person I never met that through social media knew me, saw what we were doing, and apparently she was perturbed by my little fledgling vision. And, I'm easy to hate because I don't have nothing. Nobody knows me. I don't have a claim to fame yet. My church is not huge. I'm an easy target. So she did this whole trending topic on Twitter. You remember those? She did this whole trending topic called hashtag let me save you $50. And the whole thing,
I think I remember that.
The whole thing was reasons why you shouldn't come to his little young leaders thing. I don't even know this lady. Social media acquaintances, even that's a reach. Let me save you $50. And the crazy thing, and maybe it was prophetic, but what really threw me off is I'm 22 years old, trying to do something, for my trying to carve out a space in my generation. And she's doing this whole thing of I don't know who he think he is. This little fake Bishop Jakes Project Gideon. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
But I learned from it. I grew from it. And the lesson is, as I kept going, I can't tell you her name. I don't know what became of her. But I know that it reached a point where it's like, oh wait, hey, I don't think we can hate on this no more. Like, wait, did he just get a convention center? Oh wait, hey haters, hold on one second. I think we got to be quiet, because we about to look bad if we keep talking about this. Did he get so and so to come?
Wow.
And wait, their production looked like that? Hey, shh, y'all be quiet. If we keep bashing them, we gonna look like haters. Y'all gotta be quiet. And let's act like we're proud of them. So that's what it looks like now. Hey, bro, we're proud of you. You're doing it. That's what it looks like now. Because you can't come out and say a group that just paid off $2 million worth of medical debt for poor people. You can't say that sucks. A group that just had Congressman John Lewis come and stand on their stage and give them a day in the city of Atlanta. You can't say that sucks. No, it doesn't. Look, they're on CNN. Presidential candidates are coming to them. How do you sit and say that's trash?
Come on.
You have to say, man,
gotta
this is
congratulate.
really not. Now, you don't have to mean it, but you at least have to say it. So that's what I'm saying. In the church context, the more God blesses, the harder it becomes to hate, at least publicly, I'll say.
Right.
So, man, the criticism, it's a part of it. If you don't want criticism, a wise man said, if you don't want to be criticized, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. That's the only way. Because if you say something, doesn't matter what the something is, somebody gonna criticize it. If you do something, doesn't even matter what the something is, somebody's gonna criticize it. If you build something, doesn't even matter what it is, somebody is gonna criticize it. So you have to be okay with that, and you have to grow to a point where you realize the reason my name is in your mouth is because you got nothing else to talk about.
Wow.
Because you ain't doing nothing. You've built nothing. You've created nothing. You've crafted nothing. You've elevated nothing. So what do? You talk about those that are doing something. And the moment you realize it's not even personal, man. It's not even about you. It's not even about me. It's about the fact that for many of us, we're doing what other people wish they could.
Right. And I appreciate you bringing that out, man, because that's so important, because I know you're not, a guy that tries to, boast or be arrogant or anything like that. Humility is shown in everything that you do. But I just want to know what goes, I know you get, that backlash with everything that you're doing, and growing young leaders and spirit and truth and all of this stuff that we see you doing online and offline. I know you get some kind of criticism that can be depressing or can kind of discourage a visionary, and so people that are watching, I think that's important to know kind of, how do you maneuver when you receive that kind of backlash? And man, just about to get wrapping it up, man, with this last question, man. What do you see yourself in the next 10 years? I know of all that you've accomplished, but where do you really see yourself in the next 10 years?
Man, in the will of God. That's all I can say, man. That's all I can say, man. I don't, and I know this isn't the popular answer because you're supposed to have, then I'm gonna do this. Bro, I didn't see myself here 10 years ago. I'm gonna be honest with you, Demarcus. I didn't see myself here a year ago. I didn't want a studio. What I want a studio for? I'm a conference host. I do convention centers and arenas.
That built my faith.
I can go to a studio to record something for my arena, but I do conferences. What do I need a studio for? And then what happened? The world changed. And so as the world changed, I realized if I'm going to matter in the new world, I got to change too. So if you would have asked me 14 months ago, man, you see yourself in production? No. What are you talking about? Do you see yourself doing weekly services that impact tens of thousands of people? No. I do conferences that impact tens of thousands of people, but nah. So I can't say for certain where I'll be in the next 10 because I didn't see myself here in the last 10. And so I think that what I do know, though, is that I intend to be somewhere building the kingdom, advancing the kingdom and the culture.
Yes, sir. At
the same time, and putting a generation in position to win, trying to find creative ways to spread the gospel and to create platform for different voices and different gifts, man. And that's kind of where I see it, man. I don't know I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I do know who holds tomorrow, man. So
Yes, sir.
I'm just trying to, and please, and I know we gotta go, man, but I hope this doesn't come across as if I'm telling people not to plan, because I have a plan.
Not at all.
I'm just not locked into it to the point where God can't change it. A lot
Yes,
of
sir.
us, I think,
That's
miss
good.
out, man, on what God has next because of what we're so focused on now. Not to preach, but Abraham.
Yes, sir.
Remember
Go
when
ahead.
God tells him, hey, I want you to take your son to the top of that mountain. I want you to sacrifice it. What? My promised son? Yeah, I want you to sacrifice it.
Yes, sir.
Gets his son, gets the servants, load up the donkey, get the wood, knives, everything needed for the sacrifice. They get to the foot of the mountain. He tells the servant, me and the boy will return. Takes Isaac up, ties Isaac down. Why? Because God told him to sacrifice his son.
Yes.
Isaac says, Daddy, look, real quick, Dad, I see the wood, I see everything for the sacrifice, but where's the sacrifice? He says, son, the Lord will prepare and provide himself a sacrifice. But in his mind, he's going to kill this boy. Why? Because God told him, sacrifice his son.
Yes,
The Bible
sir.
says he ties him down, he raises his knife above his head, and he's getting ready to come down with the blade, Demarcus. But then the voice of the Lord says, Moses, Abraham, stay your hand, essentially. He says, look over there. There's a ram in the bush. He stops, unties the boy, gets the ram, sacrifices the ram. Now, here's the lesson that I'm trying to make here.
Yes, sir.
If Abraham was like a lot of us, he would have still killed Isaac because he would have been too stubborn to listen for new instructions. A lot of us would have tied Isaac down, raised that knife, and when the Lord said, all right, stop, I need you to do something different. We said, I rebuke you, Satan. God told me to kill this boy.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I gotta do what God told me to do. And the problem is, God sometimes gives updated instructions.
Wow.
I'm afraid
That's
that
good.
a lot of us have killed our promise. What was thank you, Jesus. What was Isaac for Abraham? Isaac was Abraham's future.
Oh, Doc, you
This
getting into
is his
some deep water
promise.
right now.
He's the one that's going to carry this on. Isaac represented Abraham's future. And how many of us have killed our future?
Wow.
Bro, let me write this down.
Now, wait a minute. I just put a post, I think a week or two ago. I know you heard, but are you hearing?
Oh,
because Abraham heard what God said. But if he would have only just went on what he heard instead of what he needed to hear after, man, that's
and
powerful.
don't forget, Abraham is the father of the faith, and it is faith that cometh by hearing.
Whoo, come on.
Not just what you heard. Don't get me started, brother.
Jeez.
But like I'm saying,
yes, sir.
A lot of us have killed our future because we didn't listen for new instructions. How many pastors and churches, not to be negative, but how many pastors and churches in this pandemic have killed their future because they wouldn't listen for new? No, God told us we got to come together. We got to be in the but he also gave new instructions. He's still speaking. And so, man, my thing is, I just don't want to kill my future being so stuck on my present that I can't hear what God wants me to. God, Mark, do conferences. Okay, Lord, I'm going to do them. If you're going to help me, yes. Okay, I'm going to do them big. Go for it. All right, I'm a conference host. What would have happened if I would have missed him say, Mark, build a studio? I do conferences.
Wow.
Well, maybe he knows I've changed the world in a way where it's not going to be likely that you can get 10,000 people in an arena from around the world in one place at one time for a while.
Come on.
So, hey, maybe his build a studio, maybe that was an instruction that will future-proof me so that I can matter in the new world. But if I'm stuck on, no, I just do large thousands of people in one room. Well, what happens when you can't do that?
Right.
Did you miss out on the instructions that would have put you in position to be relevant to the moment that you're in now? If not,
That's it.
what does he need you for?
Mm-hmm.
What use does he have for you if you don't have nothing
Man,
to offer now because you still stuck on what he was doing then?
come
That's
on.
my 2 cents.
Man, that's good, man. Man, Mark, man, I appreciate you so much, man. So many nuggets and wisdom, man, that I've learned, man, and just hearing you over and over again. I'm gonna do something, man, because you know, even though I'm a part of YLC, the community and everything, I really like what you're doing, you know, with Spirit and Truth, and something that I'm doing with my online platform and everything that I'm trying to build and everything. Everybody, I want you, Mark, if you don't mind, you know, putting your Cash App out there. I want to sow $50, you know, to everything that you're doing. You know, I've already, you know, bought courses and things like that that the Lord have graced you to do. But I want to sow a seed, you know, and everybody, if you want, whatever seed God places on your heart, you know, and sowing and what the man of God is doing with Spirit and Truth, YLC, everything, I want to sow in good ground. So, man of God, tell us your Cash App, and I want to be a blessing to you today.
Man, I'm so grateful to you for that, and honored by both your invite and your generosity, man. But the Cash App is $ExploreYLC.
Okay.
$, #ExploreYLC. And thank you so much, man, for doing that. You've seen what God is doing. You've seen the ground that he has blessed and how we're working very hard to get it where it needs to be. And so thank you for that. $ExploreYLC, man. Honored.
And we'll make sure we put a link in, make sure everybody can see everybody that would like to sow. I appreciate you so much, man. I know you got to get on to another meeting. But man, I appreciate you once again, man, for having a conversation with your boy, man. Hope it don't be your last time, man.
I hope not. You invite me back, I'm coming.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
I appreciate you, man. Till next time, man. Be blessed.
Yes, sir. You too, man.
Demarcus Lacy TV.